morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. Welcome to Transnation Esports for round 13 of the F2 National Championship. Free practice session at the Valterri It's James Grand Prix, better known as Sochi, Russia. I'm Brett Evans, bringing you solo commentary for the time being. Of course, Lane Everingham will join us, hopefully, in the race and qualifying for this championship. Currently, we've got 5 drivers in the lobby, taking part in the 45-minute practice session as we host every week now up until the final round of the championship at Abu Dhabi, which is not too far away, given mind. We do have a bit of a break after the Russian Grand Prix, but fear not, we do have an extra race implanted into the series to sort of speed things along, and that next event will be the Australian Grand Prix. I'm not 100% sure when that is, I'd have to check the calendar, but we do have an extra race and it is at Australia, and then we go to Abu Dhabi for the final race of the season. Obviously, in the breaks preceding this championship, we've had some supercar live streams, some information about other things. Yes, Izzy, in Mother Russia? Well, in Mother Russia, you don't usually say good morning, good evening, or good afternoon. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, says you. So, as they say, the Sochi Autodrome is actually one of my personal favourite circuits. I know a lot of drivers around here don't share the same views about it. Yes, it is a Herman Tilke circuit, but it is one of the few Herman Tilke circuits that was built through circumstances, not through his own personal perspective. So, of course, the Winter Olympics were held here in 2014, and Russia wanted to host a Grand Prix. So Herman Tilke was tasked with the ability to try and build a circuit that worked around this Winter Olympic complex, and this is a result of it. And it's probably one of the more circuits that Herman Tilke has built that actually has a bit more character than some of the opposing circuits he has built over the course of time. Obviously, Abu Dhabi was a swing and a miss, and there's so many variations of circuits that he's built that are not quite up to standard. So it's one of those kind of ones where things play a big part in it. It is a corner cutting, track extending nightmare to a lot of drivers, me included. So, any driver that's able to get through this circuit without corner cutting, invalidating, or earning penalties throughout the race, you'll know you've done a good job around here. The other interesting aspect is we're watching Rd11 on screen here, who's done the fastest time of the session, a 1 minute 47.4 on the medium tyre. Keep in mind, of course, these are the medium compound tyres. They have the softs available, or the super softs. I'm not 100% sure which one it is, but the perspective of play is that these tyres, get 2 sets of for this 45 minutes, so you've got to use them while you can. The question, so to answer that question, it is the race. It's not very many people are that interested in the practice sessions. They like to do their own sort of practice. You'd be lucky if we see any less than 10 drivers in the session. Usually by the time the race starts up, we're back to our normal grid capacity. It's also an account that not everyone is able to get on straight away to do these practice sessions. It could also be that we need our league organiser, Addy Bettenbauer, to make an announcement earlier in the week to announce that there will be an official practice session, grab more people's intrigue. But as we say, all this will go to the hashtag Ask Bretty section. So as always, within the 35 minutes, sorry, I just dropped my controller between my legs. Be sure to ask any questions in the comment section below about the season, about next season. Obviously next season's going to be a bit barren to me because I won't be a part of it in any retrospect apart from Supercars season, and Actually, there is a bit of news on that, but I'll come to that in a second. Anything about our merchandise stand? Obviously, don't ask when it's coming out, because I can only tell you it's coming out in June, and that's only an estimated date. That's not 100% clarified. Information of that will be made apparent to you by Patrick Boylard when the time comes, and David Aponte has now joined the session for a bit of practice himself to bring the number up to 6. Michael Groen Jr. on screen here, 1 minute 46.7, claimed he was able to do a 1 minute 44 in time trials, so we'll be interested to see if he can break this bridesmaid duck that he's been hampered with this whole time. He's, through the last 3 rounds, he's been the runners-up in the round, and still, by this point, eluded that race win in the feature race. So he's doing his absolute best to get it done, but he just can't find that ticket. Could today be the day? Well, track extending penalties has never been good for him in retrospect to that. He's always been able to pick up 1 or 2, and that's critical usually when his opponents such as Andrew Lee, Eddie Bettenbauer, and that don't really often pick up any. So he just needs to pick that one up and put it in. To answer that question, Ari, probably, I mean, it'll be available, but it's not like we're going to be dishing out any major birthday material or anything like that. The only major thing that's going to be given out to people is the championship wear. So just to sort of enlighten on that one a little bit, so Tantalo have come together with us to make an established championship wear, and this goes out to all the categories. So F1 Nationals, F2 Nationals, F1 Regionals from Europe, F1 Regionals from the US, Supercars, and eventually this new one that I will announce very shortly. So the winning driver of the championship will be given a specialised T&E merchandise championship winning shirt. Andrew Lee has won the championship for No Assist Tier 1, so he'll be having his dispatched soon. So Andrew, if you are watching, that is on its way. Any other accounts usually are just going to be through the customization period, and of course for T&E members there'll be a 10% discount on all apparel there, as Michael now goes to the top with a 1 minute 46 point. Let's try and gauge that, 146.5.
Wilbur, to respond to that response, you're just mean. I want TXT TNE merch.
So yeah, so I have Ari in the background listening to me while I do all this, but that's just the way it goes, mate. You get a discount, and that's probably better than what most sponsorships ever produce for a lot of things. But anyway, on to the next piece of information. So Josh Banks, I'm sure you'll all remember from the F1 side of things, he's in the Supercars Championship now. He's also now opening up an IndyCar series, the Tantalo Transnation eSports IndyCar series. So that's going to be running on the same day as the development series, 11 o'clock New Zealand Standard Time on Saturdays, which is Friday nights for the US and Saturday morning for the Europeans and British. So that's going to be an interesting one. Of course, we're going to be having our very own Indy 500. So we've got our Monaco Grand Prix, we've got our Indy 500, we've got our Bathurst 1000, where we just need someone to create a GT endurance series, and then we might have our Le Mans 24 hour, and we would have the quad crown. Now, I know people were saying it's actually the triple crown because it's the Monaco Grand Prix, the Indy 500, and the Le Mans 24 hour. But to me, the Bathurst 1000 should be one of those category pedigrees, because the Bathurst 1000, in my opinion, is one of the best endurance races in the world. And it's not because of my particular bias towards supercars, it's just the status quo. Now, Aries just had a bit of a spin there at turn 3. But it doesn't seem to, of course, no damage in these sessions. So in relation to all that, the supercar season is drawing drastically closer. The IndyCar series won't be starting till August 21st, so there's plenty of time for that to get set in motion. Supercars are only literally coming close to about a month to go. I did a bit of a session test last weekend, but ended up struggling a fair amount to try and get the overlays to work. But I think thanks to help from one of my drivers who is actually a commentator, he managed to help me understand the SDK gaming overlay system, so I should be able to work that out in time for my part of commentary in this development series championship. Both series are now full, so we do have a full grid on both of them, so that's good news. And of course, we also now have naming rights to our championships too, so, well, naming rights to our tracks. So I'll read them out in just a second. I just got to pull them up, obviously, and then while we do that, after we do that, we'll actually go through the championship picture here in the F2 to see where everyone stands. So we are going to the race calendar. So our opening event will be the GT Productions Detroit Super Street. Now, GT Productions is my own original voice acting company that I had way back when I was a bit younger, working on voice acting projects such as a Bridge series, fan-made series, even made my own series for Dragon Ball and Naruto. Never finished them. Well, I finished them on paper, but I never finished them in production. And then the second round will be the Pest Speed Okayama Super Sprint. That's at Okayama International in Japan. That's a interesting circuit, and Pest Speed is just one of the sponsors that we have within the championship. Then the third event is the DXT eSports Imola Super Sprint at Imola, Italy. As we say, the Supercar Championship doesn't have all the Australian tracks like we wish it did, but we just go with what we thought was good. Then round 4 is the Canvas Lifestyle New Zealand Daytona Super Sprint, so another New Zealand sponsorship there. Then, of course, we haven't got one yet for the Indianapolis Road Course Super Sprint, so we're hoping we'll find something there. And then the next round is the Nissan Visual and Graphics Montreal Super Sprint at Montreal, Canada, the Circuit des Villeneuve. So a bit of Formula 1 ethics for coming into the championship. The next round is the Spicy Graphics Oran Park Super Sprint. Of course, Oran Park doesn't exist anymore. It's actually a housing development, but they were able to get the track laser scanned before the track was demolished back in 2009. And then we go into the endurance season with starting off with the Tea Time Long Beach 200. Now, Tea Time, I'm sure everyone will know, is the main sponsor of the Tea Time Friday League hosted by DXT eSports. So we managed to pull Alex Boniface's sponsor into the championship. And then, of course, we have the Orange Network Phillip Island 500. Now, that's actually Josh Banks' father's own personal business, so good to see that we can get some more localised naming rights into our championship. And then finally, we have the Tantalo Bathurst 1000, which is the season conclude and is, of course, our Bathurst 1000 championship. So that's going to be a really exciting... Sorry, Izzy, I'm going to have to get you to elaborate on the what I did what now. But anyway, while I wait for that to happen, I will now go through the championship perspective for the F2 Nationals as of late. So this is the results after the last event at the Italian Grand Prix. So Eddie Bettenbauer still leads the championship with a 60-point advantage over Michael Garone Jr. So Eddie's looking more and more certain to be being crowned the third different F2 national champion. Andrew Lee, of course, was champion of Season 2. I don't actually remember who our Season 1 champion was. Bo Wigger in third place, 89 points behind, and then Andrew Lee in fourth place, pretty much mathematically out of the title fight now, but still has a good shot of doing anything else there. Ken Doyle in P4, so Ken's only 1 point behind Andrew as well, so Ken could have a possibility of a good result if he can have a good weekend. Of course, Andrew did miss the last round completely at Italy, sleeping in. Maybe, hopefully he doesn't do that one again. Tara Delaney, DeBatch and Carl in P6, and Jaden Howard P7, Joshua Bacon P8, Robin Kreff 9th, and Jonathan Dunk in the 10. Then it's Roscoe Armour, Tyler McDonald, Jordan Dittmer in 13th, got a good points haul last weekend out, and of course he did score pole position in the sprint race for Italy. Unfortunately, he and the fellow front driver in the front, who I believe was a reserve, both jumped the start and couldn't go on from there. Then we have, I still got that name there, I don't know why, Mitchell Onstink in the first of the Campos in position 15, Matthew Stotts in the second of the ART, David Aponte, Ari in 18th. In fact, David Aponte is the last driver in the points with 1. Then it's Ari Tascari, Gabe Cazzola is a new driver in the second of the Campos, and then Izzy Crean and the Dams in position 20. Moving into Constructors' Land, Prema holds a 39-point lead over the defending champions Carlin. So Carlin have actually built their way back up towards championship fighting contention, but at the moment the Prema team looking very strong. Even if at this present point in time it's only been carried by 1 driver. So that's not too bad. ART in third, only 1 point behind Carlin, so it's a good battle for second and third in the Constructors. Dams, then Uni Virtuosi in positions 4 and 5, MP Motorsport 6, High Tech in 7th, Harrell in 8th, Trident in 9th, and Campos have got 12 points, even though both their drivers are new and don't have any. Yeah, okay, so Izzy, you didn't actually answer my question of... I'm just having you on. Well, you're pretty much racing in it, Izzy. You might as well be full-time. But I want to know more to the point of, wait, when you say, wait, you did what now? I want to know what you mean by that. That's what I'm trying to figure out. But anyway, we got 22 and 22 seconds on the clock, so still plenty of time to try and dabble on some information. Obviously the actual Formula 1 are currently at Monaco for the Monaco Grand Prix. The Indy 500 is drawing closer. I don't think they're on the same weekend actually, so I'm not 100% sure. But that'll be interesting nonetheless. You can't remember, that was 5 minutes ago. Maybe it might have been in relation to perhaps me getting Alex Boniface to agree to have Tea Time sponsor the Long Beach track, maybe? I don't know. But yeah, it's pretty cool that we've got all these cool sponsors signing on for this season. Of course, next season we'll be opening the calendar out with about a February start, and we'll be extending that season out all the way to November. So basically like an actual supercar series, just obviously with not as many Australian tracks. So suggestions as to where we'll go for next season. Well, Charlotte Motor Speedway has a Roval, which is a really nice track. I believe that could be one of our options. We have heard rumours that Austria and Hungary are going to be making an appearance in iRacing very shortly. So the Hungaro ring and the Austria ring, or the A1 ring, or the Red Bull ring, however you want to portray it. So those two could be in the cards. Ooh, big spin there from Eddie Bettenbauer and into the barrier. And Terry decides he wants to try and take him out with him, but obviously can't because ghosting is on. But yeah, Terry, I think, almost joined him, but then decided he might just take a swing, but of course it doesn't happen when you're ghosting. So, big moment there for Terry. He will be, Eddie will be hoping he won't do that one again in the race, in the qualifying, or anything like that that could jeopardise his championship. He's got a comfortable lead, which, if I'm not mistaken, if he can hold on to that, if he can extend that championship points lead out to 86 points, I believe he could walk away today as the F2 national champion. That's my understanding. I think it's 43 points for the winner. The maximum points you can achieve is 43. So he currently has a 60-point lead over Michael Garone Jr. So Eddie has to finish at least another 23 points ahead. So that could be on the account of Eddie winning the feature race and Michael not scoring in the points, or the combined points gap between the two is more than 23 points, or 26 points, I should say. So yeah, it could be interesting to see if Eddie could walk away today as the F2 national champion, or I should say the F2 national champion elect. Otherwise, all you would have to do in Australia is make sure that he's still 43 points ahead of Michael heading into Abu Dhabi. So it's an interesting play there for the championship in terms of that. I know this is the wrong category, but what we're going to actually do now is have a look at the championship picture of the F1 championship. I know that Dan likes to look at it during the qualifying session, but I would be quite curious to see. In fact, I'm going to check the attendance quite quickly. It's not looking too flash, but we do have reserve status for that reason. So, in the No Assist Tier 1 Championship, Thierry Delany does have a 22-point lead over Joseph Roberts. Now, of course, this is after Italy, so... wait, this is after Italy. Well, I do know that Thierry finished ahead of Joe in that championship race at Singapore, so that could be changed. Okay, that's just embarrassing. Okay, so never mind that. So the current order at the moment in terms of the track position is Michael Garone Jr. with a 46.1, ahead of Ken Doyle with a 46.3, and Addy Bettenbout on a 46.7, then Terry on a 47 flat, David Aponte with a 49.5, and Ari, who has not set a time at all in this session. So, Michael Garone Jr. is about to start a lap, so we'll do an onboard and show him how it's done. So coming through turn 1, now I know a lot of people say, Brett, you call that turn 1, but you don't call the Austria track turn 2. Shut up, I'm right, you're wrong, shut up. But anyway, through turns 2 and 3, you just got to be able to get this car to throw it. You've got to try and throw that car in and not make any contact with those curves because it doesn't validate. Turn 4, never-ending left-hander. Turn 5, just got to get on the brakes and make sure you don't drift out wide, because obviously if you drift out wide you are bound to invalidate. Turn 6, same principle, and of course you also agree with the fence. Michael cut the corner, so he's invalidated, he was a bit too shy on it. Turn 8, turn 9, pretty much the same. From this point onwards, you're pretty much just trying to keep the car within the track limits. Obviously you can see the green patches, that's where your limits probably lay in. Anything more than that and you'll be invalidated. Also, you can also be greeted with the fence. Was that a Eugene reference? Yeah, could have been. I'm right, you're wrong, shut up, yep. Could be a Eugene reference. I do watch the Try Guys quite a lot. I'm more surprised that someone actually got it. But yeah, no, I think Eugene's quote is actually quite quite a good thing to have for me, and I might actually use that if Gaz and I get into a tiff. I'll just set him with a, well, you know what, Gaz, I'm right, you're wrong, shut up. But so Michael going around again. So you understand the basis of the circuit. Let's just show you how you would ideally approach it. So when you come into here, you're just going to be able to hug the apexes. Ooh, I think he hugged the apex probably a little bit too much. The car didn't actually settle in too well to that. And then through here, you got to get the car nosed in. Obviously, you don't want to lock up as much as what Michael did, because that compromises your time, but it does get the nose in a lot better. Here, you want to be hugging the inside, and then you just want to be able to keep the car off to the left and then throw it into the right, keeping it off the exit curb as much as humanly possible. And again, through here, same here, make sure you don't nose the car in too much that you cut the corner, and of course trying to stay offline. Now remember, these cars are very different to an F1 car in terms of the aerodynamics and the chassis stability, so you'll find that the car understeers a lot, so you won't be able to get the car nosed into these corners as fluidly as an F1 car. Oh, he loops it, almost loops it actually, but yeah, so he's got the right procedures through these corners, but this, I can't imagine this being a very clean lap in terms of time as he comes through. Sorry, that's the wrong thing. Oh, he missed a gear there too, so that's not going to help, but nah, he's gone wide there as well, so I would say expect to see him come in. What we'll do is we'll switch to Thierry Delany and see if we can see a difference in pattern, because I think Thierry uses a pad, wheel, sorry, as opposed to Michael Garone Jr. using the pad. So coming through these corners, you can see that with the wheel, Thierry's able to actually turn the car in more smoothly and more fluidly, whereas Michael is actually kind of relying on the braking of the car to turn the nose in, as Thierry does lock up a little tiny bit coming into this section. So if you want to know the differences between the pad and the wheel users are going to be a lot more fluid in their turning, and they're going to be able to rely on the turning of the wheel to get into the corners, whereas pad users are going to rely more on the brakes, because obviously the pad joystick doesn't have the same sort of momentum carry as the wheel does, so you can't necessarily get the car to turn smoothly, so you rely more on the brakes to get the car slowed up and nosed in, especially in these cars. In the F1 cars it's not as obvious, but with these cars in particular it is. So Thierry does a 46.5, which is an improvement from his previous lap time, which does put him ahead of Eddie Bettenbauer. Ken now does the fastest race lap of the session with a 45.8, so it's getting closer and closer to those times that Michael was talking about in the time trial of a 44.0. There's a comment in the Discord, something about no, I don't know about that. So they're talking about the referencing of everything as ooh, hello. Oh, hi there. Oh, Ken. Oh, you're lucky this ain't an official session, because whoa, hey, he's doing it again. Hey. Hey, Ken, what you doing there, buddy? You should know better than this. I don't mean, yeah, you're out of fuel, but still. Really? Oh, he's weaving. He knows he's in trouble. Yeah, he knows it. But yeah, under normal circumstances, of course, this kind of stuff is frowned upon. But as it is a non-official, well, actually, technically speaking, Ken, if you weave your car a lot more, you should be able to pick up more fuel by doing that, because you're sloshing the fuel around in the tank. So I mean, that's regular car logic. And motor real life motor racing logic. I don't know if it's quite the same with virtual gaming logic, but you never know. he just continues to cut through these corners, and I'm sure he's laughing about it right now. I'm sure Izzy's probably having a laugh about it herself as well. So, I think the funniest part about it is that despite everything, he almost still spun. So, wait a minute. No, never mind. I was going to say, is he actually out of fuel, or is he just cruising around trying to look after the tyres? But, nah, in he comes. So, who else is on track? Let's have a look at David Aponte and try and understand. So, I believe David Aponte is on a wheel. I believe. I'm not actually 100% sure. I know he uses no assist because he's joined the Semi-Elite series. Oh no, he's definitely paired. Just testing some different lines as he has a full spin there. One thing I actually noticed a bit about David Aponte is that he doesn't over-rev the car a fair bit. Now, Eddie's back on circuit and he's actually using the same tyres that he used previously, so very interesting there. So actually it's not too bad of an idea. Well, it's not too bad of a strategy because you get to sort of see how the tyres play out. Now there is a bit of a catch-22 or a double-edged sword, if you want to call it, based on that, because obviously when you pit your tyres cool down and that, so when your tyres cool down they do sustain a bit of grip, so it is kind of hard to gauge a race strategy with these tyres. If it was an F1 car and you could adjust your fuel capacity, then yeah, this would be an ideal strategy to do some race running and find out what pace you've got on these tyres through a race trim. But of course you can't refuel these cars, so well, you can't adjust the fuel on these cars, so you have to kind of do a handful of laps, pit, do a handful of laps, pit, and yeah, you don't get a perfect readout because of that, so it's kind of hard to work out. Excuse me, it's kind of hard to work out why these categories have such different, well, you know, why the F2 is so very different in terms of everything compared to an F1 session. So, you know, an F1 session you have access to all your tyre compounds. You can fill your car up as much as you want, control your fuel and all that, and do some proper race runs. But with the F2 cars, you only get like 5 laps worth of fuel and 2 sets of tyres of the hardest compound to use. And I'm not talking about like two tyres, I'm talking about 2 sets. So you only get 2 sets of 4 tyres, mediums, and another set. So it's, you know, you have 45 minutes, and I'm pretty sure these F2 cars have actual 90-minute sessions. So, you know, 90-minute session, 2 sets of tyres. So you've got to try and figure out, and of course, like I say, it's not... What the heck? I was riding on board with Eddie, and then suddenly it just jumped to Eddie being in the pits. That's a bit weird. If only they brought back that return to pits function in F1 games during practice and qualifying sessions. But yeah, so you know, you got 90 minutes to try and work out a session like this, so it's one of the more interesting ones when you put out to it. Now, because I didn't label this video as well, no, it's not Cody's actually, is it? This is actually the F2 format. This is all the FIA. It's got nothing to do with Cody's. Cody's are just following the orders of what the FOM and FIA give you. So they this is what the F2 Championship has to deal with. So they have only 2 sets of tyres to use in 90 minutes and limited fuel. So you'd almost sort of beg the question of why would you even have that long of a session for practice for these cars if you can't, you can't do qualifying trim or anything like that. So it really begs the question of, like, unless you're an innate talent like Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, or I don't know, George Russell or something, who could move from an F2 car. Why is there a black screen? No idea. Oh, you're referring to the glitch. Oh, the glitch where Addy just sort of jumped me straight to the pits. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to move out of this session and into the lobby. I'm just going to take a quick vocal break, and when we come back, hopefully things will be put into motion, so stay tuned. Okay, we are back. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. Welcome back to coverage of the F2 National Championship here at the Sochi Autodrome, or the Valterri at James Grand Prix. I'm Brett Evans, as always, and very soon hopefully joined by Lane Everingham in the commentary box. We're here at Sochi, 18 turns, 5.848 kilometres, 3.633 miles, an easy track on the difficulty scale, and a lap record of 1 minute 46.476 set by Nick De Vries in 2018. So, as mentioned prior to all this, the Sochi Autodrome is not a very well publicised circuit, not often categorised as a favourite for many of the drivers in the championship, but I tend to disagree on that one and say that it is actually one of my personal favourite tracks. The aspect behind the circuit is, the character behind it is very unique and very different. A lot of people sort of argue that validation by saying because it's a Herman Tilke track, there's just sort of no aspect behind it, but again, I disagree on that immeasurably. And it looks like Andrew Lee is awake, so we should expect to see him in this lobby today. So unfortunately, after missing last weekend at Italy, he is officially out of the championship running for at least the champion seat. So the main battle in the championship, I'll actually double check to see if Bo is still a shot in this, but we will just quickly have a look at the championship standings once again, just to understand that. So Bo is 89 points, so yep, Bo is mathematically out of the championship battle. So currently, as it stands, it is a 2-horse race for the championship in terms of Michael Garone Jr. and Eddie Bettenbauer. Now, by my understanding, is that Eddie Bettenbauer only has to finish 23 points ahead of Michael Garone Jr. Sorry, 26 points actually. If the gap is 60, yeah, so 26 points will be the gap needed to and oh, it looks like Andrew Lee's going to be racing on pad today. That's going to be a very interesting development. So he's almost handicapping himself a little bit for today's race, unless he's found himself a sweet spot. Now, I do know that as of yesterday, he actually bought himself a Thrustmaster TX. Yeah, he traded in his Fanatec for a Thrustmaster TX. Now, to answer the question as to why people would think that, obviously he's moved, his attention is no longer fixed towards F1 anymore, it's more towards GT Sports, so he's obviously looking at trying to adapt more to his GT Sport career than anything else. So he's downgraded to a Thrustmaster TX GT Sport licensed racing wheel. And Andrew, if you're watching the stream and you have no more need for that Fanatec, could you send it my way? I'd actually really appreciate it. I'll pay for postage, but yeah. Nonetheless, I'd very much love a Fanatec to sort of broaden out my F1 my supercars career. But actually, just gonna take a gamble here. I'd probably get a big fat no for it, but it's not every day you could take an opportunity to get a Fanatec almost for free. Well, not free, but you're paying postage, but you know, postage from Tasmania to New Zealand would be somewhere in the way of $300 or $400. So, it's all set in motion, so our list of number of drivers at the moment is pretty small, but we are still waiting for, it is still quite early in the piece. Well, it's worth a shot. I mean, I haven't got the answer yet, so it could be anything, and we do have Lane Everingham in the spectator stand. We'll just wait for him to join us in the comm box if he hasn't already. Actually, no, he's just joined us now. Good morning, Mr. Everingham.
Morning, Mr. Evans.
So I've just tried my hand of actually trying to get Andrew Lee to send me his Fanatec, because he's actually switched in to a TX Thrustmaster TX wheel for GD Sport, as he's sort of giving up on F1 at the end of this season.
It sounds like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I saw him use it last night in a league race with Mazda touring cars, and he absolutely bashed us in. Well, you kind of expect that, really, from a guy of his caliber, but yeah, no, not a bad ploy to try and scab off his Fanatec, though.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you never know.
Well, I mean, if he's willing to send it through postage, I'm more than willing to pay $400 or $500 for postage to a wheel that would normally cost me $2,000 or $3,000 probably.
Oh, without a doubt.
But so we are here at the Sochi Autodrome, or as I called it, the Valtteri It's James Grand Prix. It's only been on the calendar since 2014. I do believe actually, I think in a state of irony, we call it the Valtteri It's James Grand Prix, but it's actually ironic because it's where Valtteri Bottas scored his first pole position and his first race win, and I believe that he got the pole position at the very first event in 2014.
In 2014, he just might have as well, because that Williams was quite a competitive car.
I do know it was, yeah. I do know it was either him or Felipe Massa. I think it was a Williams lockout on that particular weekend. Of course, they didn't end up winning the Grand Prix. That honour went to Lewis Hamilton. Sergio Perez getting a podium after Raikkonen, and actually, no, that was 2015. Sorry, that was 2015, because Raikkonen and Bottas came together on the final lap, which gifted Perez the podium. And then 2016, I think Rosberg won that one from Vettel after a clawing finish. That was a race where Vettel could have won the race but just couldn't get past him. And then again in 2017, couldn't get past Bottas then. And then of course 2018 was where 2018 was where the Valtteri It's James saga began, where Hamilton won the championship convincingly, yet they felt the need to let Hamilton win that race for the championship.
Yeah, it was a controversial time, especially for all us fans watching the sport, I suppose. Well, Ferrari did the exact same thing in the early 2000s with Michael and Rubens Barrichello. The infamous 2002 Austrian Grand Prix that's etched into everyone's minds.
Well, actually, surprisingly, it happened in 2001 as well. The only difference in that one was that it wasn't for a race win. It's actually quite amazing how people sort of forgot about that one, because, didn't bear any significance until the next one, where literally Rubens let him go straight on the line. So... And they got fined quite a hefty amount too for breaking podium protocol too, because Schumacher, in a state of guilt, tried to force Rubens onto the top step.
Yeah, and that was the FIA's opportunity to crack down on Ferrari for what happened, because everything they did before that point was completely legal, because team orders were definitely a thing back in 2002. There was nothing that the FIA could, get on top of them with. And then, Schumacher sort of trying to give Rubens a top step, which is a awfully kind gesture, but completely against podium protocol. So that gave the FIA the opportunity to crack down on Ferrari.
And then, of course, the team order rule was subsequently banned from there up until pretty much 2010, where people sort of raised eyebrows at the whole Fernando Alonso, Felipe Massa incident of Hockenheim. People kind of wondered, was it team orders? Well, it was.
What's the point of banning team orders if you're just going to send coded messages anyway?
Well, exactly, and that's it. So Ferrari found a loophole in the system. So rather than say, this is a team order, Felipe, give the position to Fernando, they just said, Fernando is faster than you. I'm sure you know what that means.
Yeah, can you confirm that you understand the message? And from that point onwards, the FIA were like, well, what's the point of us banning team orders if teams are just going to do this. So they just let teams make team orders.
And of course,
So,
Red Bull's infamous multi-1-2, multi-21 sort of factors.
multi-21, yeah.
Of course,
That ultimately came to light at the, what was it, 2013 Malaysian Grand Prix?
yep. Sebastian Vettel was battling with Webber for position. They called out the order multi-21. Vettel ignored it, overtook Webber and won the race. Vettel apologised subsequently for the scenario, but then at the Bahrain Grand Prix later admitted that the reason he did it was to get back at Webber for what happened at Brazil 2012 when they gave him Webber the orders multi-1-2, and Webber responded with, "What button is that on the wheel? I can't find it," and held Vettel up, which could have cost Vettel the 2012 championship.
There you go.
Subsequently, from this point on, team orders have become a lot more obvious now.
Not so coded.
Obviously, there was the order in 2019's Russia very circuit here, where Vettel was told to let Charles through because their agreement was that Charles would let Vettel have a tow at the start on the idea that it'd be 1-2, not expecting Vettel to actually slingshot the lot of them and take the lead. Vettel sort of disobeyed the order by saying, "I'll let him through, but he has to catch me first." And clearly that wasn't happening because Vettel had the quicker car. Now, I don't know if you've heard about the conjecture behind that, but there's a lot of people that believe that Ferrari sabotaged Vettel's car in the pit stop.
It's a load of bullshit. It just is. Ferrari, any racing team wouldn't do such a thing to their own car. Okay, to get at a driver. No team would do that. Because it's not just a driver driving that car, it's an entire team who have managed, who have looked after, who have designed that car that are also in the cockpit with Seb. Because they put in a lot of work to make that car work on a race day through a qualifying day through practice and whatnot. They wouldn't deliberately go out of their way to destroy a car just to get at one driver. It wouldn't make any sense. I'm a bit disappointed in people who do believe such a thing, because it's just not like that in any motorsport, not just Formula One.
Well, I mean, the underhandedness of motorsport can be so trivial. You've got your team orders that can switch positions. Then you look at the 2019 Super Cheap Auto Bathurst 1000, where basically one driver was prompted to slow the field down so much that the main driver wouldn't get held in traffic during the pit stop sequence. So, what else was there? There was a I can't actually remember. Well, obviously the Crashgate scandal, where they told one of their drivers to deliberately crash out of a race so to prompt the safety car to help a driver win the race, which was absolutely stupid because the next race that car won outright. I bet you. I can't help but think that
in that between Seb's incident here is that it benefited the other car. With Seb, just his engine detonating and bringing out, I think it was a safety car. It brought no benefit.
Well, actually, if anything, and then the subsequent, the nature of motorsport in itself is quite fleeting. People talk about rugby scandals or cricket scandals, which, interestingly, the Cricket Australia have revisited the sandpaper gate.
That's come back up after a Cameron Bancroft interview.
Yeah, so Cameron Bancroft basically suggesting that there was more people in on the whole thing than what was originally planned. So
there always was more people. I mean, the idea that the bowlers know about the sandpaper thing, of course they had to have known, because they're the players who have the ball 24/7, basically, on a cricket field. So, of course, they would know something.
Just do what they did to Russell Wingle in 2014 at Bathurst. Just chuck him to a lie detector and let away with the questions.
Yeah.
Although
But,
I don't think Mark Larkin would ever make the same mistake twice of chucking Russell Ingall into a lie detector, because the aftermath was quite interesting. For those who don't know, basically what happened after this is that Ingall invited Larkin into his motor camp, cooked him dinner, which was a spaghetti bolognese, and actually the meat inside the bolognese was VIP pet food.
yeah,
Which is
wasn't
edible, mind you. It's edible, but
yeah.
it's just not something you'd expect to find, and you're
I
not
like
expecting.
how Larkham initially said, "Oh, that's not too bad."
And then, yeah, as soon as he gets revealed, he's just
behind the Russell.
spitting the shit out in the sink, and
Oh,
then
that's
telling
funny.
Russell to bend over so he could shove it up his butt. Oh, Larko and Engel. I mean, this is completely non-F1 related, but I'm not apologetic about it. But anyway, we'll talk about that a bit later on. So right now we're at qualifying, one-shot quali, 14 cars. Interesting to see how Andrew Lee's going to be doing on the pad. As I said earlier in the piece, he's mathematically out of the championship. Eddie Beatonbell could walk away this weekend as the champion-elect if he can be 86 points clear of Michael Garone Jr. after this venue, or otherwise it will go to Australia, where 43 points will be the gap he needs. Currently Ken Doyle on provisional pole. Jonathan Dunk, in fact, I think Ken just invalidated. That's why Jonathan Dunk's now jumped up to pole. I think Andrew may have invalidated as well. Just quickly try and shuffle my way to where he is. So Ken has invalidated. Andrew hasn't invalidated. He's just actually off the pace at the moment.
Fair enough. Well, and we have a few more. Ross was one of them.
Mitchell
And
Otkin.
Death Joker. Oh, no, he just voluntarily retired after invalidating. Fair enough.
So Eddie Bettenbow, and then the two Carlins of Jonathan Dunk. I think Michael Grown Jr. would have thought that this would have been a bit of an ease factor for him in the championship, but at the moment it's actually been quite clear that his teammate Jonathan Dunk's actually been a bit more better than him in some of the races. Looks like Russia's no different. Of course, we'll just see what transpires. I think pole is going to go to Eddie Bettenbow undoubtedly, although Jonathan Dunk's just jumped to the top. Oh, this could be close. And it's going to go... Oh, it's a Carlin 1-2. Jonathan Dunk with a 1 minute 44.9... hang on, 8:42.
That is ridiculously close. That is 400 separating the top three.
That is extremely close. And then Bo, almost a second behind Eddie. Thierry's a little bit off the pace in terms of that. Jordan's a good qualifying with a 1:46.1. Andrew Lee finished 8th, 4 seconds off the pace of the leaders. That's a huge difference between his normal pace, considering that he's put his Fanatec away. And like I say, I'm waiting to hear if I can
nab it off him.
No,
Andrew.
he hasn't
you
replied
mind awfully.
Yeah, sorry I discredited you on the pad. He's still... David Aponte has yet to finish the session. Where is he? He's an invisible car.
He just crossed the line, I guess, did he?
No, I think he might have ran out of time. Usually when that happens, it means the drivers run out of time.
Interesting.
But, I don't know, it says he's... Oh. What?
Apparently he did set a time, so...
So Ken Doyle down in 13th. That's going to be a bit of a charge for him. The two new Campos drivers of Mitchell Otkin and Gabriel down in 11th and 14th. Roscoe Armour, another victim in the Harao. Good qualifying from Jordan Dittmer to be where he is in 6th place. It is a bit of a smaller grid now. We have noticed over the course of this week in particular that attendance wasn't too flash. I know in the Americas race there was probably, I think there was actually a lot more reserves than full timers, and I think in the European League there was actually more reserves in the race than full-timers. So attendance is dropping. It's hard to explain, well, hard to decipher why it could be. But
well, it could boil down to a couple of like here in Russia, it's not exactly the most enthusiastic racetrack in the world, so I wouldn't imagine too many people would want to toss their hand up to race. Could come down to the fact that the game's reaching towards its end in terms of its life cycle. I mean, F1 2021 is about 2 months away, so that's start to be hotly anticipated. And this game has sort of left a foul taste in a lot of people's mouths over its lifetime. I mean, when this thing released, we had lobby glitches from the get-go with the CWOS glitch on console. It was quite horrible. On PC, apparently, it wasn't too bad. But on console, it made the game literally unplayable. And after they fixed that, after a month after release, we still had many, many problems with the online element of the game. So
it's actually funny that you mentioned the PC aspect behind it, because I've actually decided to do a bit of research and ask around. And PC drivers claim that they don't actually have many of these glitches, if not any of them. So excuse me, that's a bit of acid reflux. But yeah, it's very interesting. So I know obviously with PC games you have a lot more creative, constructive feedback. So it does give you more room to play with, whereas consoles you were limited to probably maybe about I don't know, 70 or 80 gigabyte limit, unless you Call of Duty, which just grab 2 discs.
COD is
Well, I think with
COD
PlayStation 5 it won't be as bad now. You probably wouldn't ever find a game with 2 discs.
Perhaps because the PS5 will now have significantly more processing power than the PS4, but that means the games will get bigger as well and require more processing power. So
well, and saying that, we didn't think that PS4 would require 2 discs for any games.
2 discs, but apparently Call of Duty does.
Well, Call of Duty, Red Dead Redemption, Cyberpunk, the list goes on. But anyway, let's run us through the the DXT Esports starting grid, and your Tantalo pole position award will go to Jonathan Dunk. So that's his first pole position in the F2 Nationals, at least feature race wise, and then it's his teammate alongside. So both drivers opting for the opposing strategy. Michael, interestingly, going for the quicker tyre strategy. In previous races, he went for the slower tyre strategy, which just didn't work. So
I think he's recognised this and he's gone with the super soft tyre straight away. We'll see if it pays off, because we've seen in other races where drivers run long initially, they can't gather the positions back at the end of the race. So this might work for Michael.
Yeah,
I'll have to wait and see though.
So Addy's doing the opposite to Michael, which is funny. If this pays off for Addy, I'm sure Michael will kick himself for it. Bowen 4th, Terry 5th, Jordan 6th, Jaden Howard 7th, Andrew Lee 8th, David Aponte 9th, Dirty Don in 10th, Mitchell Otkin in 11th, Roscoe Armour 12th, Ken Doyle 13th, and Gabrielle in 14th. So that's a quick rundown of your esports starting grid, and it is a Carlin 1-2. We have not seen this at all, actually, in the F2 National season. But can Michael Garone Jr. finally break that duck and get his first ever feature race victory? Or could his teammate break a duck and get a first win? It's all game on here as the 5 red lights build up. And it will be lights out and away we go for the feature race. Now keep an eye out for Addy Bettenbauer, because being in third place you usually have the better run, but it looks like it's a good 2 start by the 2 Carlin boys. Michael might have just got the better run, but they're fanning out. This is where it gets ugly. And he's going to try and make it 3 wide, but can't do it. Jordan Dittmer's making it 3 wide, but Michael Garone Jr. finally slips through. We've got chaos going on in the back here. I think Thierry's been caught up in it.
Michael's been shuffled down to 4th place. He's now fighting with Bo and JD around the outside. They made contact there at turn
how did
4.
that not end up in a spin?
I have no idea. They're very, very lucky. Oh, Bo's fighting back here at turn 5, side by side, and Bo comes out on top in that little melee.
So what happened there, I wonder?
No idea. Perhaps there might have been contact between Michael, maybe his teammate, or Addy through turn 3 and just lost a lot of time.
Oh, and Addy's
Maybe
made a mistake.
Ooh, has indeed.
Bo's going to try and go around the outside. This doesn't usually work. And that's going to give Michael the incentive to get up the inside, maybe get up the inside of the both. This has helped Jonathan Dunk extend his gap out to 1.4 seconds after one lap, and Michael's going to try and now feed it down the inside of Addy into the hair. Well, I don't even know what you call this. It's not a hairpin.
It's a 90-degree corner, maybe. I think it's probably the best way to describe it, I guess. It's a bit of an interesting turn, 13.
Jaden Howard making a move there, so Jaden Howard's actually made up some good ground. Jordan's gone completely backwards.
He had a blistering start off the line. I just saw the yellow Uni Virtuosi car just absolutely rocket itself off the line, upsetting 51.3 as the first lap, and Dunk is loving this, just seeing the cars behind battling. He's just pulling away at the front. Oh, and Addy's trying desperately to break the toe. And towards turn 2, make contact a little bit there. But Michael, he'd be absolutely frustrated right now because he has a car in front of him on a slower toe, and that's Andrew.
Andrew's still just coming to terms with the pad, and it's Michael Grown Jr. is trying to go up the inside of Addy. Oh, I don't. If there was good contact there, it was the tiniest amount. But yeah, Michael will be not very happy at the idea that he's stuck behind these medium runners.
He really needed a good start on those tyres, get into some clear air and try and pull away as much as he can early on. This is not helping his race at all.
Well, he did subsequently get a good start. He got into the lead at turn 1 or turn 2, but then I don't know, did he lose traction? Did the other drivers get a good run or something? Because he just dropped, like you said, he dropped 3 positions, managed to get back with Bo, and then we got this interesting yellow flag appearing in sector 1, and it just keeps blinking on, so probably going to expect to see that for the duration of the race. Can't be any worse than that. I think it was your commentary actually, where Italy where it ended up being yellow flags for the whole sector for like 5 laps or something.
It was horrible. I've seen in recent races on this game some of the glitches I've seen are ridiculous, to say the least. That was one of them there in Italy. I had another one at Canada, which was horrible as well, at Montreal, where we had yellow flags all around the racetrack for about 5 laps straight, so no one could pass anyone.
Oh, this is going to be ugly here. There's 3 wide at turn 1 with Terry, Dirty Don and Mitchell, but Terry manages to slide through there to yellow. That's just the yellow flag glitch. I don't think there was actually a car. Ken's actually had a really good storm through the field. He's currently P6 behind his teammate. Michael still can't get past that Prima of Addy Bettenbell. But in terms of the constructors, this is going to help Carlin out quite big because... Oh, Addy makes a mistake! Oh, he just keeps it off the fence, but there goes that position. So now Michael has to try and overtake his teammate, and I'm sure his teammate is going to be in the mood to not let his teammate go, because these two both want that feature race win. And I'm sure that Michael will know that if he doesn't win the feature race, he's probably not likely to win the event or win the round, because Jonathan Dunk has the pole, which is the 4 points. So generally what you want to do is try to deny the pole sitter the race win, because then you're pretty much almost guaranteeing them to win the round. Throw in the fastest lap in. And like you say, Michael needs to be within 80, he needs to get points on Addy, because if Addy walks away from this championship with 86 points in the gap, Addy wins the championship. So it's a bit of a tall pecking order for Michael to try and get Addy down to the points needed to battle him at Abu Dhabi. But at the same time, Addy's not doing himself very many favours with these mistakes.
Absolutely. I mean, I actually saw Jonathan Dunk make a small mistake.
Oh, here we
as
go.
well.
They're actually, I think it's just trading positions. So they're playing the team
using the
game.
power of DRS. They're slingshotting by. I think
Oh,
it's important
Eddie!
that they don't trip each other up.
Oh, Eddie just forced his nose in there, and he actually has got it done. Now, will Jonathan fight it up the inside? No, he won't. I think Eddie managed to cover him off just at the nick of time. And that's going to put Bo in the box seat. So Jonathan Dunk could lose in excess of 3 positions in the space of a few corners, but Bo doesn't quite have the tenacity to... Oh, that yellow flag is actually getting quite annoying.
It's just little
Bo, are
things
you
to
actually...
remind us.
Oh, I actually thought he was going to commit to that. It's not like you can't do it, it's just that it demands respect from both parties. So Jonathan would have to have opened up the door, which could have potentially forced him offline, or they would have met in the middle and one of the two would have been out of kilter. Now, there was an interesting incident here in the European Regional Championship on Wednesday, and it was at this corner here that Michael was just coming up to. The driver went up the inside, there was contact, and then on the secondary contact into the next corner, the driver that went up the inside spun. And the driver who he's reporting against put his hand up, and I sat there and I thought, well, you have to take into consideration of that corner. It's elevated and off camber. So technically speaking, the driver on the outside has the advantage going into that corner. So it's not really an ideal place to overtake, unless you're really committing to a move from the outside. As Eddie thinks about a move, probably just forcing Michael to go defensive just to make that corner entry an issue, and then attack when, because that's all it comes down to. The second a driver defends, they can't move back, so they have to take the corner in a manner that's not going to benefit them. Yellow flag again. That's just going to stay there and bug the shit out of me. We do have a pit stop in play, Ken and Gabrielle, so
so they've now got clear air, and particularly for Ken, he needs to make this clear air work. He needs to set some fast lap times, because he can get an effective undercut on basically everyone in front of him. He needs to nail this lap. It's very important that he nails this lap.
And the problem that Michael's got at the moment too is that he's not pulling away from Eddie Bettenbell, which to me suggests that Michael's used up too much of his tyres to try and overtake Eddie, and is now paying for that. Yellow flag, sector 1, that's just... I think it's going to happen now every time a car goes through it.
Probably. Hopefully the drivers aren't seeing it though, and they're still allowed to pass there.
Oh, they will be, but I can't imagine that...
Michael might be pitting. No, he won't. Interesting. I just saw Ken pit in this this early, so I thought maybe the other super soft runners would also be in. But no, they're staying out another lap as Dunk has a mistake at the final turn and knocks out that poor orange bollard at the inside.
I will just quickly check, hang on, so I'll check the pit stops thing. There was no front wing change from Ken, so there's no indication on that, so maybe Ken is just looking for that undercut effect. No one else is pit in this time, but like I say, Michael needed to make a gap for this to work, because when they switch the tyres, obviously Michael has to go onto the slower mediums, whereas Eddie gets the faster super softs. So it really changes the way the race flows as Dunk picks up his first penalty, which
he's looking up the inside at turn 5, but Bo... they make contact at the exit of 5, and Dunk comes out on top in that little melee as well.
That was the effect of two cars sort of one car understeering, which was Jonathan Dunk, and then the other car oversteering, which was Bo. So it's quite interesting when you have two cars sharing the exact opposite nature of the bad sides of motor racing. So, you know, when you understeer, that means that the front of the car's refusing to turn in. It's just pushing, so you can't turn the car in. That's what was happening to Dunk as he was coming up the inside of Bo. Bo had oversteers, whereas the rear end of the car doesn't want to hook up on the exit, so it steps out. So they did that. They met in the centre. What? Wait, what's going on here? We've got David Aponte.
Yeah, he's been shown a lap down.
No, he was driving through the map.
Oh. Interesting. He's not doing such things for me, but yeah.
No, I think that was just a quarter of the moment thing for me. Now, we've got some drivers in, which I think includes Michael Groen Jr. and Bo.
Yeah.
Ooh, Michael's initial jump out of the pits wasn't too flash, so I wonder if that's gonna... Oh no, maybe that's just what the F2 policy does. So, where is Ken in all this? Ken is coming out of the last corner now. Bo's just getting up to speed, so... I think... Well, it actually could be pretty close.
Bo.
Well, he'll have the speed over Bo, but will he have the initiative? He'll have the warmer tyres as well, so if he needs to strike now, because the last thing you'll want is for Bo to get these tyres up to speed. Because once he gets them up to temperature, it's going to be tricky for Ken to initiate. So Ken needs to make a move, and he needs to make it this lap. So watch for this on the next DRS straight. The advantage that Michael gets is because he's in fresh air. He's got at least maybe about, I can't tell because the gap between him and Jordan's not showing, but I would say it's about 8 seconds. That should be, he'll be able to use that fresh air to initiate a bit of an undercut on Addy and try and extend that gap in hopes that the one thing that Michael won't want right now is a safety car. So as long as the safety car doesn't come out, he'll be safe. He hasn't picked up a penalty yet, as Ken's now going to commit to the inside at the 90-degree. They're side by side. There's actually a yellow flag near now. I think that was Roscoe Armour, which it is, and he's... How did he not get wing damage from that?
Miracle from the Codemasters gods, it would seem.
Oh no, he did. It's just on the wrong side.
There it is. Oh!
Now, did Ken
Ken and Bo are really scrapping it out for 11th position there. It was looking like they were going to be side by side heading into turn 17, the second last corner. Bo was having none of it though, and he sort of closed the door on Ken, heading towards the entry of the corner. So
now let's see what
Bo wants to hang on to this. It would seem.
Oh, I don't know. Ken's coming at him at a rate or not. So if Ken can just get a good exit out of any of those DRS corners, he'll be pretty set. But we've got someone dropping through the order a little bit, I think, or maybe that. Oh, hang on, we got a battle here between Mitchell and Thierry. Now, I don't know if that's which way that's going in, whether that's Thierry getting past Mitchell or Mitchell was attacking Thierry. But yeah, Thierry had a really appalling start. There's no damage on his car, so I think he just had a bad start and got swallowed up. He was near the back of the field by the end of the turn. He qualified up in the top 5, so he hasn't really been able to recover from that now. As Mitchell's... Yeah, I think Mitchell's the one on the attack, and he's giving Thierry a bit of a handful here now. Let's have a look on board with Ken Doyle, as he's still not close enough. In fact, Bo's weaving a little bit, but...
Trying to break the toe, it would seem, as Dunk is in the pits, lap 9 of 14. Actually, yeah, that's about the pit window, maybe a lap earlier.
It's obviously trying to get the undercut on Addy, so maybe put a bit of strain on him, and
Gary's doing the same in the dams, so interesting to see how these fellas fare.
And bad news for Michael Groen Jr. He's actually caught now at the back of Jordan Dittmer. And Jordan's internet's never usually the finest. Now, it's Ken within shot here as he is, so we'll just keep an eye on this. As... Oh, Jonathan Duncan's just coming out right next to them. So that's an undercut. Well, actually... no, it's not really an undercut, actually. Because he was behind the... He was behind... Ken's been the biggest beneficiary of it, but in terms of Ken versus... Bo versus Dunk, that's...
End plate. I saw an end plate. There are 2 end plates, in fact. there. Where did they come off?
Um,
Oh, you're kidding me. Michael Garone Jr. has a missing front wing.
and the
Oh, that's really spoiled the race at the front then.
Now the question lies in, was that initiated by Jordan or did he do that to himself? Let's have a I'll have a look.
I didn't keep an eye on the gaps. I was too busy looking at Ken and Bo, and then I saw elements of front wing on the racetrack.
So let's see.
I was going through the field to see who it was, and it was Michael. So that's ruined his chance for any sort of race win.
So Michael was within DRS range of Jordan into the corners. Now I'm just obviously this is where we're watching the battle take place. The gap dropping. Yeah, Michael's made a move up the inside of Jordan, and I'm likely to think that Jordan might have chopped his nose off.
Okay. We'll have to wait and see though. With post-race, there might be footage or something of the like about it.
Of course, Jordan is
Michael's
entitled
going to fight on with the damage. I think this might be a sensible decision because if he pits, he's not going to be finishing inside the top 10. So,
well, incredibly, the overcut has worked in favour massively to Eddie Benbow. Eddie must have been just punching out the laps.
I disagree. I think Michael would have ended up well in front of Addy if it weren't for the wing damage.
Well, he's giving up.
Losing more than just a couple seconds a lap.
Well, he's actually surrendering the positions because he knows he can't fight. So, yeah, I don't know. This is very interesting. One would think, yeah. I mean, Jordan, like I say, Jordan's within his rights to initiate because he's not. It was not like they were fighting for lapped prospect, but you know, Jordan was entitled to fight. It was for position. Where has Jordan ended up? He's pit now. He's currently 12th. Pole position currently sitting in the hands of Andrew Lee, but he does have a time penalty, and Dirty Don behind him doesn't. Neither does Jaden Howard. So it could be either Jaden Howard or Dirty Don sitting on pole position for the feature sprint race. Actually, I was supposed to ask this question. I think I asked this question in the thing and didn't get a response from anyone from it. In the IndyCars, we saw Romain Grosjean qualify pole position, lead the race, and then was impacted by lap traffic. Now, in IndyCar logic, blue flags don't exist.
No.
Do you think that's something that Formula One should introduce?
Not sure. See, the fundamentals of blue flags is to give importance to people who are on the lead lap or on a higher lap compared to the one they're overtaking. They're not genuinely battling for position, so I can see from a moral point of view that lap traffic should give way to those who are on the lead lap. But it leaves a big grey area to when somebody is holding up somebody else and they should be penalised for it. Like, I think Spain recently with Nikita Mazepin, you hear Toto Wolff clamber over the radio. For the first time ever in Formula One history, we hear a team principal talk to the FIA stewards. And he's yelling at Michael Massey, the head of the FIA stewards, to get Mazepin out of the way. He's holding us up. Well, Mazepin is way down the road. He didn't defect Hamilton at all. He maybe lost 7 or so tenths of a second. That's nothing when you're trying to pass lap traffic in other motorsports. So,
well, I think I remember watching a video from WTF1 Matthew Gallagher explaining that there's a certain time threshold where blue flags becomes active, and I think it's like 1.2 seconds. So the driver on the lead lap has to be 1.2 seconds behind the lapped car before blue flags initiate, and then they get 3 warnings with the blue flags before a penalty is dished out. Somebody did comment in that video in particular because he was asking the question, should they outlaw blue flags in F1? Somebody said if you do that, you're determining the championship by Nikita Mazepin, which I thought was actually quite funny. But, you know, it's just one of those ones where there's the pros and the cons to the blue flags, because obviously it is stopping lap cars from interfering with the race as it is, but at the same time, you're also interfering with their race as well, because they could be battling for, you know, I think
positions up the field.
I do believe, I think it was Imola that Mazepin was put a lap down, and he complained about it because it stopped him from battling someone for position, even if it was for like 19th.
And even for someone as hated as Mazepin, he needs as much time racing other drivers as he possibly can, so he can learn and build up experience racing in a Formula One car.
And I suppose in a sense of surprise for a lot of people, he wasn't even the first Haas driver in the fence at Monaco this season. It was actually mixed, so...
I thought I remember I was in a party chat with a lot of people, and someone asked the question, who would be the first driver in the wall at Monaco? And basically 90% of the people said Mazepin. I chucked up Tsunoda. I thought Tsunoda would, and he ultimately did, but he didn't take off a wheel. He smashed the wall, I think, at the exit of the swimming pool complex, which is quite a common place to smash a wheel, and you're pushing hard. I just thought with Yuki being a bit of a, not too much, but a little bit of a hothead, I think he might have been pushing a little bit too hard and maybe he'd smack a wall.
Yeah, Yuki's got quite a bit of a mouth on him, actually. It's actually quite...
He's got a mouth on him, that's for sure.
So, while we were talking, Michael Garone Jr.'s actually pit for a front wing change.
He's on old tyres though, isn't he?
No, well, no, actually, no, I don't, maybe he hasn't pit.
He
maybe...
fought on with that wing.
Let's have a look. Pit stops.
Yeah, no.
No, he's stayed at... No, he's just... That's just how much... That's just how much time he's dropped. He's actually lost. So much time he's dropped to 8th. But maybe, just maybe, and I don't... It's not controversial because there's no rule against it. But there is a possibility he's deliberately dropped himself to 8th. To... at least secure a pole position for the feature race, but essentially that's a lot of points to surrender just to start on pole position.
No, I think this is just a natural, like that would be sort of a dark orange front wing on the left hand side, so
and it's saying that
every
too,
single right hander around this racetrack, that side of the wing is generating no downfalls whatsoever.
He is lucky in a way that
any front end grip.
Dirty Don just picked up a penalty, so he could let Dirty Don through. There is one lap left to go, but I'm sure Michael won't be too happy with what happened with Jordan, even if it was Jordan, to say the least. We aren't 100% sure, but I would say, actually, hang on, what is the position of the wing? Yeah, left-hand side, so that would be on the account of going up the inside of Jordan, and the gap was there, so I think Michael's maybe tried to fire it up the inside. Jordan's just taken his original line left, made contact in the centre, and then... Or either that, or Michael's thought about a move, and then Jordan's broken a bit early, caught Michael unawares. You don't
Even a scenario that Michael somehow lost it by himself, coming around the high-speed left-hander, and perhaps rotated the car and slammed into the wall, which would have been on the outside of turn 4. So there are several possibilities that could have happened. But regardless, whatever happened, it's ruined Michael's race, and he's now on the outer edge of the top 10. He's being passed by Dirty Don.
He will hold on to pole position though, so long as he can keep Jaden Howard at bay, because otherwise then he'll be starting 9th, which I'm sure would be a bit of pill for him. But his teammate's doing a good job at the moment, holding down 2nd place, and I think he'll hold on to that because I'll just see what the penalty is, 3 seconds here, so unless King can make up a second in this next sector, which, well, it's not impossible, but it would be a bit of a fat cat miracle. But Eddie Bettenbauer started 3rd place, was shafted down the order by the 2 Carlin boys, and actually Michael was about to get attacked here for 9th. And that's done for that. So Jaden Howell looks like he will take pole, but for Eddie Bettenbauer around the last corner of the championship points leader, I said he needed 83 points to leave this championship as the champion, or leave this event as the champion. Well, at this present moment of time, he puts one hand on that trophy and wins the feature race. And Michael Groen Jr. is only going to finish in 10th place.
I think he tried to fight with JD to try and hang on to 9th place, which would put him on pole, but he can't hang on to it.
So he finishes 9th, puts him ahead of Dirty Don. So that's 2 points to Addy's 25. So that's a 23-point gap. And like I said, he only needed 20. Addy only needs 26 to win this championship here in Russia. Now, I just need to check the fastest lap, and it went to Addy, so that's actually 25 points. So Addy only needs 1 point now to win this championship, with 2 races to go.
Yeah, it's not looking good. All the other drivers who are contesting for the Drivers' Championship, it looks like Addy will wrap this up. All that Addy needs to do is outscore Michael by 1 point. And he's done it.
Yeah, so given they'll start side by side in the sprint race, we're just waiting for... Wait, David Aponte...
It's welcome to Codemasters Video Games on the PlayStation, bro. It's a bit of a desync here with David. He's being shown down in 14th place, 2 laps down. Even though he's crossed the finish line, the AI is going to let him trundle around the racetrack.
And get his lap backs. That's interesting.
Try and complete the 14 laps.
I do remember David Aponte racing in D&E, and there was glitches where he would end up almost 6 or 7 laps down, and then at the end of the race it actually let him attempt to try and get those laps back.
Yeah.
Of course, he does have 50 seconds now, so he crossed the line, which I would say has got his lap back. Now he just has to
we'll just have to wait until the timer hits 0, I guess.
Do you think he'll make it to the line before time runs out?
No.
Oh, I think he'll miss it by... Not. I think he'll miss it by... I don't know, actually. I think he's going to miss it by quite a lot now.
And it's not him driving the car, it's just the AI, and we know how rubbish they are.
And it's stuck behind another AI now too. So... I would say he's missed it by a good 10 seconds. So as he rounds, let's see, so as he rounds the last corner... Nah, that'd be about 5 seconds.
Oh, was he rounding the last corner for you?
No, he was just rounding the last corner as it went into the camera mode.
Where I was seeing him, he was at turns 13 and 14.
Oh, well, there you go. So that just shows the huge disparity of the lag. So
the great desync.
We'll have a quick check now of the Discord, because obviously this will be where we'll be able to find out, because I'm sure Michael would have been very vocal about what happened.
Or if he's done it himself, he wouldn't have said anything.
Got killed by Jordan's net.
Ah, there you go. I'm sure there'll be some sort of footage about it, so...
Yeah, Jordan's internet's not the greatest, so it's just an unfortunate thing. Now let's have a look at the results. So, not bad for Andrew to start 8th from qualifying, well, up 1 place to just be shy. So he'll be on the front row for the sprint race, which will be very interesting to see if he can sort of take that up into perspective. Now, in terms of the battle between Bo and Michael, that's 2 points to Bo's 8, so that's a 6-point gain that Bo's made on Michael in that championship aspect. Now the gap between Bo and Michael is 29 points, so make that 23. Now I don't know what's going on. Why are we not... Why is the counter not coming down? Timer not going down or anything?
That is a great question. I have no clue. No clue at all.
Well, there's your point. There's your point scale. Anyway, so actually, yeah. So 27 points.
Yeah, currently second in the round is Jonathan Dunk on 22, as he got 4 points from quali. So it'll be between those two for the round. 5 points separating them. And Kim Doyle third on 15 points. So.
Apparently they're waiting on David Aponte to ready up, but there's no...
Ready up.
Well, I think that desync with the situation could be a problem within the system. I'm not 100% sure if you can fabricate single...
I don't think so, no.
Not sprint races, at least. We'll just sit and wait anyway and see what happens. If the sprint race gets canned, that probably saves Michael 1 point.
Plenty to dabble about over the course of this weekend. We got the Monaco Grand Prix and Indy qualifying as well for next week's Indianapolis 500. It's fantastic to see that we have two of the greatest motorsport events so close to each other. Plenty of content. But, I think it's been 24 months since we've had a Monaco Grand Prix.
Yeah, we didn't have one last season, and
No.
there's been actually quite a few complaints this season in terms of the Monaco Grand Prix, mostly made by Lewis Hamilton in regards that the car, it's just becoming a... They need to fix the track and make it raceable, because at the moment it's just literally a train. The race is dictated by a train.
I suppose. But that's been Monaco since day one. That hasn't changed for 70 years.
Yeah,
That's
but I
always been
suppose
Monaco.
because the cars are a lot wider now than usual, it's
Not
harder
just
for...
wider, but a lot faster. Typically, when the cars become faster, it becomes a lot more difficult to overtake. So, what used to be probably about a 90-second lap in about the mid-80s is now a 65-second lap, or a bit over 65-second lap, 70-second lap here in 2020. So those corners that used to be passable aren't anymore because of the sheer speed of these things. There we go, that's fixed it.
Yeah.
And I don't think they can do much to the circuit itself because, well, it's in the middle of a city. So it's not like you could move the buildings or anything. So, yeah.
So the weather looking a bit interesting for the sprint race. I don't imagine... Well, we don't think we ended up ever getting a weather report on that information, but...
Well, it is overcast and... Well, I suppose we will see at some period of time if we will have wet weather conditions. Maybe if we see several of the drivers pick the super soft tyre knowing that it will rain, that will give us a good indication to if it will indeed rain in this race. We'll see what the drivers do when we line up on the grid though. That's fast as that. Everyone's on the mediums, so this might be dry all the way through. Have to wait and see.
Looking now at the starting grid for the sprint race, we've got Jaden Howard on pole position, and alongside him is Andrew Lee. Bo Wigger in third place. This could be Bo's big chance of taking in some points on Michael. in the bid for second place. Mitchell Otkin in P4, Thierry Delany in P5, King Doyle 6th, Jonathan Dunk in 7th and championship points leader, and could potentially be champion-elect Eddie Bettenbauer in 8th after winning this feature race. Michael Groen Jr., the second place driver in the championship, he's going to need to do something today if he wants to stay within a shot of winning the championship. Of course, Eddie only has to beat him by 1 point to at least 2 points to guarantee that he can walk away as the champion. Because if by chance Eddie was to have 2 bad races, Michael was to clean up the weekends, Australia and Abu Dhabi, and they tied on points, it would go back on a count back and Eddie would win with more race wins. Now people ask, what if they had the same amount of race wins? Well, then you would date it to who has the most feature race wins, which would go to Eddie because Michael doesn't have any. All of Michael's wins have come in the sprint race.
Yep.
Dirty Don, Jordan Dittmer, Gabriel, Roscoe Armour and David Aponte is your backfield. So 14 cars again. David Aponte is back in the session. He has been notified to make sure that he doesn't retake his car until the lights go out. Now, of course, this does cause subsequent issues where the AI launch, but luckily for us, I'm not hosting and Lane's not hosting, so that means that the car, disconnected car, won't launch when the lights go out. Like in the past, if a spectator hosts, the lights go out and then there's a brief holding point, but the AI sees the lights go out and just goes, which then causes, I think it happened in the it happened in the Tier 3 race where it hit a driver and got it disqualified. So the 5 red lights build up. The sprint race, it always brings out the most havoc. Will we crown our F2 champion tonight? Well, it's lights out and away we go, and let's find out. So good start by Jaden Howard. Andrew's start was pretty average actually, but the field spreading out 3 and then they're 3 wide. Maybe even 4 wide coming into it. Michael's fanning around trying to find some real estate. Actually, Michael's had a really good start. He's actually gotten ahead of Eddie into turn 1 and turn 2. There's Jordan Dittmer going off the track and then rejoining via the...
and Ross is out of the session and the virtual safety car deployed.
So what happened there? I wonder...
Did he Carlos Sainz it and smash it into the wall, or...?
The car looks more off to the left there, so I'm thinking maybe he spun and got collected. Is there any drivers there sporting damage? Not from the looks of it.
Not really, no. There is an M plate missing off David Aponte's car.
So maybe Aponte came together with Armour.
I'm not even sure that's him. Maybe that's the AI.
Well, it could be, because the AI, he was told
no,
not to.
he is controlled. Otherwise there would be a red X over his name on the onboard, so... No, that's definitely him behind the wheel.
I was about to say, I think we're about to go green here, and I think Eddie actually got a really good run on Thierry up into the corner. Now, there's not really any rules that determine overlapping under virtual. Under safety car, you're not allowed to overlap. Well, our rules dictate you're not allowed to overlap. But under virtual, I think it's a pretty fair game.
Absolutely. I mean, in motor racing, well, in any sport really, you have to exploit those little grey areas in the rules. So,
as Michael Groen Jr. trying to look for a way around Ken, because he knows that right now, with Eddie behind him, he's safe going to Australia. But the way it goes is that when you're in that position where the driver in front of you in the championship is able to win the championship with 2 races to go, you might be able to prevent it for this race, but you go into Australia with a huge order, a very huge order, to try and keep yourself in the hunt. So
impossible though. So
yeah, so sometimes it's kind of, I know, as a motor racer you don't want to do it, but sometimes let the person win the championship, and then everything stops. So you're no longer worried about fighting for the championship because you know that the guy in front of you's won it. There's only one person at the moment that can beat you for second, which is Bo, who's currently in third. Oh, in fact, I think Jonathan Dunk and Mitchell are ding-donging it up towards the third sector, side by side. Ken could use this to his advantage, get a slipstream.
But who to pick?
Yeah, who do you pick in this instance? You usually pick
he's
the
going
inside
with
because you
Dunk.
can
He's looking
slingshot.
at dunking it to the move though.
He thought about it, but then I think he thought that the two in front of him were going to be... Oh, I think Michael's actually given Ken a bit of a bump into the corner, which has actually dislodged the Uni, which means he's going to get the move done, but I don't think the job's done yet because Ken's still there. Eddie is now up the inside of Ken, so... Oh, and Ken just picked up damage from Michael's car. In fact, Eddie's up the inside of Michael at the last corner. Michael gives him as little space as possible without being too rude about it, but I think Eddie's going to get Michael here with DRS.
Oh, hang on, I think Ken might have a say in this as well. He's got slipstream and he's gaining
on
Michael.
3 wide! 3 wide into turn 2 does not go!
Oh,
in fact, 2 wide barely goes in.
Paddy and Ken make contact there at the apex of turn 2. Ken loses out massively, and Thierry's going to overtake the Irishman round turn 3, so Ken falls to 9th. Oh, that's very unlucky.
Now, interestingly, Eddie had a run on Michael there. Oh, I imagine being able to see this behind Eddie on board with Eddie's car, but Eddie had a run on Michael coming into turn 5. Turn 5, but then eased off the acceleration like he didn't want to commit to the overtake. But maybe there's a reason behind that. He doesn't want to give Michael the DRS into here.
Perhaps. Because this is quite a long DRS zone heading through turns 11 and 12, heading into the overtaking spot of turn 13. So, and he's close enough to make the move stick as well through 13.
Michael doesn't have DRS on the cars in front. Andrew Lee is now in the lead of the race, so pad or no pad, he's still got it. But now Eddie stayed out. He deliberately stayed out of the DRS of Michael through that whole sector.
Michael made a small mistake there through 14. And what's going on in front? We have side-by-side battles between Bo and Dunk and JD and who's driving Mitchell.
This is a box seat position to be riding on board with Eddie Bettenbauer, watching these guys duke it out. Yeah. Now, Michael went from out of DRS range into DRS range of all these guys, so that's going to make Eddie's job a lot harder to commit this overtake, because now Michael might actually very well get a move on Jaden Howard. Yellow flags in the back there, that's a Campos that's spun. Oh, these cars are fanning out like there's no tomorrow. Jonathan Dunk is just asserting himself. In fact, Andrew Lee on the pad is pulling away from the field. 2 seconds is the gap, but this battle pack is just...
Yeah, Dunk, that is one way to cut turn 3. I've never seen someone cut turn 3, and Dunk just did it. I don't know how, but he did it. He had all 4 wheels over the white line on the inside there at turn 3. He now has all 4 wheels out wide.
Now, Dunk was not the most popular guy at Italy last weekend, 2 weekends out. He's just got to be careful he doesn't make any more issues as the Campos again. I actually think he's actually put it in the fence this time, so no yellow, only a yellow flag, no sector change. Now, Eddie, I think Michael made a move on Jaden Howard, and Eddie's just made a move clear on him too. So Jaden Howard's going completely backwards through the field. Just check the comments. I spun myself out of the first chicane. Can't believe McCartney from that wasn't a really big hit. Okay, so
Michael and Mitchell and P4 and 5 making a bit of contact at 14. Duncan both still exchanging position, and Mitchell into 3rd. Oh my goodness. This battle pack, there's a lot going on in this battle pack for 2nd place.
And I just wonder what Eddie's end game in all of this is, because he's had several opportunities now to make an overtake, but has now sort of lost his chance to do so because he just can't seem to stay in Michael's DRS in the right areas, whereas Michael's now tagged onto the back of Bo, Mitchell and Jonathan Dunk. Dunk takes this really interesting line through 3, or 4 I should say, I actually don't even know. Mitchell and Bo side by side, bit of a barge. This is a good position to be watching on board the number 7 Carlin as Mitchell gets through. Oh, Michael, this is think about your prospects here. You don't want to be going 3 wide through here.
No, I don't think you're going to be going too wide through there, to be perfectly honest, and they're still too wide.
And Addy
and pushed off the racetrack, and Addy's trying to find a way by. He's alongside, sends it up the inside as well. Michael's sort of boxed in with nowhere to go, but he's still in 5th place.
And that's the thing, he's trying to make these overtakes, but it's because Mitchell tries to overtake Bo at the same time. He just gets boxed in with nowhere to go, and then, oh, there's contact there, but Bo, and he wants to make this move, but he just can't get up the inside.
Down the inside goes Michael, in through 15 and 16.
And he's got the run, but again, boxed in, so it's hard to know what Mitchell was using in terms of assists, so it's actually quite a really riveting battle. I'm sure Michael is absolutely fuming right now in that cockpit, but we as commentators are enjoying the spectacle as he now initiates DRS. This is a good showing to see what people are using in terms of their presets, what they're using. Mitchell does his one move.
And Addy tries to send it down the inside there at turn 2.
And actually Jaden Howard's come back into this as well. He's trying to attack Thierry behind. We'll just stay on board for a little bit longer until this sort of resolves itself, because this is quite an enthralling battle. According to Izzy, apparently Mitchell uses automatic gears and racing line, whereas Michael uses just racing line. Of course, next season, Nationals, we have our Elite Series, which means no racing line, no assists, and our Semi-Elite Series, which is just racing line. And then our normal assist series.
I have a feeling not too many people would want to do the Elite Series.
Oh, actually, we've got a full grid, believe it or not.
Yeah, that won't last.
No, probably not, but it was worth, it pays to.
I think a lot of leagues that do that no assist thing, like, they don't seem to mind the idea of removing traction control in ABS, but racing line seems to be the tipping point for a lot of people. In fact, in another league, a European league that I'm involved in, they're going through these discussions at the moment. There are a lot of people who are really against the idea of removing racing line.
Yeah, but see, this is the thing though, is that we went through the option in Season 4 to remove it completely, and it didn't work. This season we're giving them the option of registering to it. And if they don't, we've got the Semi-Elite Series, which is just the same thing. Now, I think Michael might be safe here now, because Addy's dropped quite a bit back, but, oh, he's going to send it up the inside of... How did he not get a penalty for that?
Not sure.
Hang on, I'm going to check the race director, because that surely must have warranted a corner cut warning. Yep, corner cutting warning. So that will be alright for him in that regard, because corner cutting warnings and extending warnings don't usually meld together. But Eddie's still not capitalising on this, so yellow flag in the back there. Yep, Ken's had a bit of a torrid time. I mean, he finished on the podium in the sprint feature race, but the sprint race doesn't look like it's going his way, and that's actually freed Thierry. Oh, Michael a little bit wobbly out of that corner, which means he might be... What's he going to do here with Bo? Because, you know, Bo's not the easiest driver to overtake.
I'm not sure what Michael is going to do here. If Mitchell in front in P3 can pull away, perhaps that way it makes it 10 times easier for Michael to get past and front and have the other.
I think Eddie behind made a bit of an error, lost a bit of ground, and I think Michael's in a good spot here, but again I think actually Mitchell just did the fastest lap of the race, and I think Bo has just gone out of DRS range.
Yeah, so here we go. This is a very easy move here for Michael.
But of course Bo uses ABS, so he could very easily just...
Oh, doesn't go for any
Bo picks up a penalty. But yeah, that's going to save Michael, so at this point the championship is going to Australia, unless something happens. If Michael picks up a penalty, it's game over, because Addy will vault 2 positions up to 4th, and the gap between 4th and 5th is 2 points, exactly what Addy needs to win the championship.
Well, Michael's got a little bit of a card up his sleeve, an unfortunate card for Jonathan Dunk though, as Dunk has a 3-second time penalty, so Michael is looking like he's going to gain a couple of positions here, or at least 1 position at least from P4 to P3 when penalties are applied. But if Michael can try and overtake Mitchell in front, then he might be on course for 2nd place in this race. So this is going to be quite the interesting battle when it hits its climax on the final lap to see who finishes where.
And don't discount Bo out completely. He's been overtaken, but that was only on the ground that he was 1 second behind Mitchell and Michael had DRS. Now Bo has DRS again. It might change.
He's got a Brit filling his mirrors at the moment.
So. Might want to refresh that one. As a Welshman, don't want to stir the pot on that one.
Oh well, it's often recorded in sporting history that if you have a successful Welshman or Scotsman, they're called a Briton because they're successful.
Oh, there's contact between the two. Bo did not give an inch. And that's hurt them both, because now both are out of DRS range of Michael, who is right smack bang on the rear of that Campos of Mitchell. Terry picks up a 3-second penalty. Cars seem to be going slow. It's almost like there was a virtual there, but it just seemed like something was a bit out there. But I think Eddie blew his chances quite early in the piece. He really needed to overtake Michael in those certain instances. I think he just felt bad about some of the overtakes he was trying to commit, so he didn't pull through with it. But that's probably the ultimate line between winning the championship today or taking it to Australia, where anything could go wrong. So, you know, you look at it from the perspective, you can say, yeah, I've got a huge handy lead going into Australia, but you could not race, you could miss a race, you could not be able to race, you could crash out of both races, Michael could bag a clean sweep, and then boom, you've got a championship fight going to Abu Dhabi. As Eddie's now going to...
Eddie's saying goodbye.
He's trying to and getting the job done when it's Bo, of all people, is 2 very different aspects. Michael still can't get past Mitchell, so Eddie needs to use this opportunity while he can. In fact, I think Mitchell is now starting to give Jonathan Dunk a little bit of pressure. Eddie now up the inside of Bo, and that should be job done. So now, actually no, Bo's not done with it. But, oh no, Eddie loses the rear end, and that's going to put him under fresh pressure from Thierry too. In fact, Eddie missed a gear.
And Eddie still stays out in front, just...
But, yeah, that's not what you need when, you know, overtaking Bo is one thing, and then it's, you know, to lose that advantage is a bitter pill to swallow, because he's so hard to overtake originally. Then being forced to have to do it again, I can tell you, I think Eddie's still going to win the round regardless, but I'm sure he'll be disappointed that his opportunity to win the championship is gone just a little bit pear-shaped.
Ken just got fastest lap, didn't he? I think I just saw the prompt
Yeah,
there. So that's 12 points for Dunk. And well, actually, no, it won't be 12 points for Dunk, as he will have that 3-second time penalty applied.
Oh, I think Eddie has cleared Bo. No, they're side by side, but of course Bo uses ABS, but that's going to give Eddie the... Oh, beautiful move. Well done.
That's a good place.
Now, all Eddie has to... Well, I don't know what really Eddie can do from here. The only thing that can happen is that Michael makes a mistake, has a spin, or gets a time penalty.
Well, what Eddie needs to do is get within 3 seconds of Dunk and capitalise on his penalty. At the moment, he's on that threshold of just being within 3 seconds to Carlin as Mitchell goes into second place.
Oh, and Michael almost drove straight into the back of his own teammate now. Is their team orders going to be a play again?
Let's see. Side by side round 23
doesn't
heading
look
towards
like it.
4.
Jonathan's not yielding, but yields on the last.
And now Dunk is in some serious trouble with Addy only being 2 seconds behind. So Addy will overtake Dunk in the end. I don't think Dunk will be able to open that gap back up unless Addy makes a mistake, getting a penalty, or even worse, making an even bigger one and crashing into a wall. But Addy is well under control with his
Ken
car.
picks up fastest lap again. Now we'll return our attention to this guy, Andrew Lee, who we've completely forgotten about, who has just driven a masterful race in the sprint race. Obviously, the sprint race, feature race didn't go quite to plan, having to claw his way through the field. But it's almost kind of like he's not on a pad. You know, you would almost think he wasn't on a pad, just on the way that he's driven in the sprint race. But it does look like everything in the front field is going to be put into play. And unless we have a, oh my god, it's Glock moment, I don't think Eddie's going to be walking away today as the champion. But Andrew Lee rounds the last corner and he will win his first race back on the pad in the sprint race. Mitchell second, Michael Groen Jr. with third. He protects himself from the championship, Eddie in fourth. So the championship is going to Australia.
There we go. Just though.
Duncan fifth, Bo sixth, Terry seventh, and Jaden Howard will take up the last points position in eighth. Dirty Don ninth, Jordan in 10th, Ken Doyle in 11th, but with the fastest lap, so the fastest lap will disappear. Actually, I don't know if that rule applies in F2.
I don't know. Well, I guess we'll find out in a moment, won't we?
And David Aponte again masses down the order, but I think he's on the lead lap, so he is 14 seconds behind Ken according to this, so he will finish. Ken will finish in 11th place with the fastest lap of the race. Well, actually, so what is that? Third to fourth, that's 3 points, so it's 3 points. So if Eddie had gotten the fastest lap, the point drop would have been 1, so the gap would have only been 2, it would have only been 2 points, so...
There we go.
So the championship goes to Australia. Michael picks up the driver of the day, which is a credible feat, and we will allow that one. Who was driver of the day in this feature race?
Might have been. Oh, good.
I don't think I was. I don't think I was looking at that when
I don't think I was looking either. It might have been kill switch.
Maybe.
Perhaps. I can't quite remember.
So let's have a look at the weekend results. So it is Eddie that takes the weekend, and Jonathan Duck in second, then Mitchell in third, with Andrew Lee in fourth. Let's look at Ken. So Ken did not get the fastest lap point. Actually, it went to Mitchell. So it does appear that the fastest lap point does only go to the drivers within the points. So we will invite these drivers. I'm going to have to invite Dragon manually, which is a bit of a pain, but I'll deal with that. DJ Def. Dragon. Well, yeah, because I thought so too, because it's not technically, although, yeah, I suppose because you are still scoring points out of it, so it is pretty much the same as the F1 logic. So I need to find Jonathan Dunk, who I believe is appearing offline, the bastard. Yeah, it certainly had some very interesting variables, and of course the feature race, obviously we saw a possibility of a change in the championship, but it does appear that Michael has saved himself for Australia at least, but I'm sure Eddie, will be more than willing to try and push it so that he can at least. It should be by all rights, but unfortunately it's not. So we will go to victory lane, and we've got Jonathan Dunk joining us in the comm box for position 2. We will just quickly make our way to victory lane, Jonathan, before we have a chat.
Oh. I don't know what the chat has been like. Let's have a look.
Probably nothing too extreme, but anyway, we will move.
Well, other than Andrew Lee gloating.
So, Jonathan Dunk, welcome to victory lane. Second for the weekend, pole position to start things off in the sprint feature race. It looked pretty good for you there. Unfortunately, penalties played a bit of a part in the race, and you ended up a bit further down. But a good recovery for the race in the sprint race to finish 5th, and second for the weekend. That must be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect. Hadn't put in a whole lot of practice, but yeah, was really surprised to see it on pole there. But yeah, I knew Addy and Mike probably had a little more pace than me. They probably just took it pretty conservative on those quali laps. But so yeah, I kind of had a little bit of pressure there. But me and Mike decided to go on different strategies to try to hold off Addy as long as we could. But yeah, that didn't last very long. He got around me pretty quickly, and I think Mike had a slip, which cost him some track position. But yeah, then kind of at the end, got on the softs and felt really good. Got around a couple of guys and tried to get it within 3 seconds to Addy just in case he picked up another penalty late. I think it was exactly 3 seconds. So I don't know what would have happened there, but yeah, feature race went pretty well. Then the sprint race was crazy. Got a good start at the beginning, passed a couple of guys, and seemed like it was me, DJ, Mike, and Bo were just battling it out for like 3 or 4 laps. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. I don't know. I think we all kind of had our elbows out a little bit, but in the end, I think it was. I think everybody would say it was a pretty good time. Had a good time. Had a lot of fun. So yeah, good weekend overall, and enjoyed it.
So in terms of constructors' nature, that's going to be a big boost for you and Michael in terms of beating Prema. What with Addy pretty much fighting for himself in the championship in that battle with Robin not turning up at this point. So obviously the Drivers' Championship is looking pretty slim for Michael heading into Australia. So I guess from here it's now just trying to fight and get that constructors retained from last season.
Yeah, I don't know. We got pretty unlucky there in the feature with Mike. I'm not sure who it was, but I think there was some internet issues, but that cost him a lot of track position. I really think he had a chance to to maybe win, if not second for sure. So that cost us a lot of points. But yeah, I think we ended up outscoring Prima by maybe 5. So we still got a long way to go, but yeah, a couple races left. We're gonna have to have some good races because you know what you're gonna get from Addy. But yeah, it's doable. So we'll have to put in a couple of good ones and just see how it turns out.
Well, congratulations nonetheless. Lane, you have anything you want to add?
Well, it is Albert Park next week in Australia. How do you feel about the racetrack being on the Formula 2 calendar? I mean, it's not there naturally, but your view of the circuit from a Formula 1 point of view, are you looking forward to it driving in the Formula 2 car?
Yeah, I think I definitely would enjoy it more in the F2 cars, especially I think it's turn 12. It seems that gets pretty sketchy sometimes in the F1 cars, but yeah, they're a little bit slower, so a little bit easier to control, I feel like. But yeah, we'll see. I hadn't really put any practice in there yet, but I'm excited.
Well, congratulations nonetheless, and we will see you in a couple of weeks' time at Australia for the Grand Prix.
All right, thanks, guys.
So we'll move on to position 3 because we do not have Eddie Bettenbauer. So that is Mitchell. So Mitchell, welcome to Transnation Esports Victory Lane. Position 3 for the weekend. A pretty interesting race for you in the sprint race. Full of action. Definitely no time to breathe or collect your thoughts. So just talk us through your race weekend as a whole.
Yeah, because of the qualifying and that I invalidated on that lap, I had to start from the back in the future race, so that was unfortunate. But I did come back pretty good, actually. I'd say I did cut up a lot of positions because of the pace I had. And the sprint race was just amazing, in my opinion. Battles everywhere. I just loved it. And I had really good pace. I think that if I would be in front of the others a little bit earlier, I could have gone first. But I don't mind. The battles on its own were amazing, so I have nothing to complain.
Fair enough, and it's a good result for you, especially in only your second F2 event of the season. So looking into next season, obviously there could be a good strong shout for you there. Lane, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, as you mentioned, Brad, this is only your second Formula 2 race within the league. What's your thoughts about your time in the league, even though you've only been here for such a short time?
My time in league? Which way do you mean?
What's your experience been like with the people inside the league?
Oh, I'd say everyone is pretty much, in my opinion, doing an amazing job. Being careful, but also really going for it. So you actually have a battle, but sometimes the little touches and the contact, and that always happens. But when you can just see that everyone that drives with respect for each other, pretty much, then for me it's an amazing league.
Okay.
And of course we've got merchandise as well, so you can't knock that one down or anything like that.
Of course you want to get a plug-in from merchandise.
Oh, come on, Lane. You must admit you're looking for something in that line.
Is it a ritual to mention the merchandise to everyone who is new to the league? Or?
Well, no, not really. It's just because obviously we've only just started releasing the merch line. Yeah, and it's going to be due out in June, so we might as well throw out every little plug we can. So, congratulations on that one, Mitchell. Hopefully, we'll see a bit more of you on the podium for the weekends ahead. Obviously, 4 races left to go, 2 rounds left. Obviously, it's a good chance for you to make a good impression heading into next season. So, congratulations, and we'll see you at Australia.
Thank you very much, and I'll do what I can.
So, Lane, do you have anything you want to add before we wrap up?
Nothing off the top of my head, other than that was a pretty okay race around Sochi. You don't see those too often, but it was A lot of fun. It'll be very interesting when we come across to Australia. I've never, ever seen a Formula 2 race around there, so I will have no idea what will happen. I don't even know what the tyres available are, because typically, like we saw here at Russia, we had the super soft and the mediums, and they're 2 compounds apart. So I don't know what we're going to have, whether we have the soft tyre and the medium tyre, or the super soft and the soft, or I have absolutely no idea. So I'm very much looking forward to the race in Australia.
And I'm sure everyone else will be as well. So thank you, Lane, as always, for your great input into commentary for the F2 National Championship. Thank you, everyone, for watching today's coverage of the F2 Nationals here at the Russian Grand Prix. As we say, next weekend is in 2 weekends' time, it will be the Australian Grand Prix. It's not normally part of the F2 calendar, but we did put it in just to fill in the gap, obviously, since the F2 cars don't race around Japan, USA, Mexico, or Brazil. Our next F1 race, of course, tomorrow is at the Russian Grand Prix, and that will be the final race of the weekend for them. And then, of course, the regionals will kick up at Japan for the Japanese Grand Prix. I've been Brett Evans with Lane Everingham. Thank you for watching. We will see you tomorrow. Stay tuned, though. Well, actually not here, but make your way over in about 20 minutes time to the Evans_motorsport_888 Twitch channel, as there is apparently now an unofficial practice session going on at Okayama for the Transnation Supercars Championship, and I'm going to take part in that and stream it. So thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you very soon.